Chris, you might want to look at the, oh,
So we are live, y'all. So
wonderful.
yeah,
Yay.
yeah.
Hello, world. My name is Heather Adams. I'm so excited to be here. We've got an incredible panel for you today, but I want to give you a little context and also apologize for starting late. You know, technical difficulties. We're getting used to this, but we're really excited to be here. I'm Heather Adams, as I mentioned. I oversee an outreach advocacy group called Transfer Nation. We're sort of an open access collaborative of transfer professionals and advocates and transfer students and transfer alumni and folks who just love the topic of transfer and transfer students. And we share information and collaborate and build platforms for open access information for students and families and folks interested in transfer. So we're here today to just have a conversation that you all want to have about what transfer is, how to navigate this transfer process, and what better to have incredible experts in the field who work at four-year universities and outreach to community colleges to talk about how to navigate and share their tips and insights and takeaways on the transfer process. One of the reasons that we're having this great panel today is that we all talk all the time, and we sort of share all these notes with each other, and we're like, wouldn't this be great to be able to share this with families and students and in just kind of a relaxed open access way. And so Brian came up with this great idea, and I'll let him sort of introduce the context of this event today and why we're here, and then we'll get into introducing our esteemed guests. Brian?
Perfect. Thank you, Heather. So for those of you who don't know me on the call or watching live or watching later, whatever day it may be, months from now, years from now, hopefully that'd be kind of cool, right? Who knows? The idea behind this whole chat and live stream is to really make an encyclopedia for transfers that you can come back, get this information. Parts of it in our answers might be specific to our institutions. Some might not be. So we really wanted to provide information to you as you go through this process, whether you are a transfer student, preparing to be a transfer student, parent or guardian of a transfer student, aunt, uncle, whoever they may be, or yourself going through the process of being a transfer. We wanted to give you this information because, a lot of us on this call have shared this notion that there's a stigma around transferring, and there's like the certain notation about transferring and oh, if you transfer it's this, oh, if you transfer it's this, you're going to lose all this stuff. We want to set the record straight. We want to demystify the transfer process. And we want to have you join us and submit your questions, and we'll try and answer as many as we can live. And who knows, if this is really taking off and you really enjoy this and you're having a lot of questions, we'll continue to do this more and more often, rotate some people in and out, and really make this a lot bigger encyclopedia moving forward. So I appreciate, Heather, you allowing me to speak a little bit about the idea behind it.
So well said. And please share with us what it is that you want to know. We really want this to be useful for the folks that are engaged with it now or in the future. So send something to us in the chat, send us a direct message, let us know what themes and topics you are interested in and you want to delve into, and we will make it happen. As we go through this, if you're asking questions in the chat, Chris, who is our wonderful Transfer Nation event manager, will share links in the chat with you about resources that we talk about. He'll share some links about Transfer Nation if you're interested in learning more about that and about each of the institutions as we go. And any questions that you post in there, he'll try to get to us, and we will try to get to them. But before we do that, I want to make sure you know who you are talking to and who you are asking questions of. So I thought we'd just go around. I've already talked enough. So alphabetically, we'll go around, and maybe, Brian, you introduced yourself, but maybe give us a little more insight and just your name and your role. And I'd love to know from all of you in one to two sentences what you love about working with transfer students, or why you love working in the field of transfer.
Perfect. All right. So once again, my name is Brian Swate. I'm the Assistant Director of Transfers at the College of New Jersey in beautiful Ewing, New Jersey. I am up on a crane very high above campus, so you can kind of see exactly behind me. You could hear the wind blowing. I'm just kidding. I'm in a beautiful conference room on campus. But 1 to 2 sentences of why I enjoy working with transfers is you all have unique stories. And I think a lot of the time coming out of high school, the first year class, they all have the same starting point. But with transfers, everyone has a different starting point. You know, maybe you went to the military after high school, or maybe you went to work, or whatever it may be. And I love learning the stories. And I feel as though, like a good author, the more people you meet, the more stories you collect, the more you become that person. So I feel as though being able to work with transfer students, I become a little bit better at who I am as a person, understand people a little bit more better, since everyone has a different experience than I do. I wasn't a transfer student. I went straight through 4 years, and you know, some of the stories that I hear from transfer students makes that experience different from mine, which obviously anyone would say, but I really enjoy learning about different lifestyles of people who didn't have the ability to go right 4-year private, you know, school that I did. So I collect the stories that you guys share, and I live vicariously through you. I know that was longer than 2 sentences, but that'll be it.
No worries at all. Rochelle.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rochelle Setsodi, Associate Director of Admission at Drake University, located in Des Moines, Iowa. I am passionate about transfer students, been working with them for over 17 plus years, and all the unique and different stories of what school they may come from, or your life experiences, or the age span. I've worked with students anywhere from age 18 up to 86. So just, you know, you may have a family, not have a family, may have just be transferring direct from community college, or been out of schools for years. Might have a stellar GPA, an average GPA, or a rough GPA that we need to work through, strengthening your application file at a local community college, and then transfer later. So I've seen some major successful stories. I'm a helper by nature, and I love helping students get to the next place and transform their lives. So I love transfer students. So I'll kick it on over to Paul.
Had to unmute. Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. Very excited to be here. This is something new I've never done. I've done a gazillion virtual sessions. We all have, but to actually do something live and to actually get a chance to talk to you guys and share our stories. So I'm Paul Singh. I'm the Assistant Director of Undergraduate Recruitment at Thomas Edison State University, which is also located in New Jersey. We are a online institution. I'm a twice alum of Thomas Edison, and I ended up getting my undergrad and grad all within 3 years. And I'm also a transfer student. And I guess working with transfer student was a calling for me. I kind of like fell into this field, if you want to call it. I'm extremely a proud transfer student. I would echo everything my colleagues are saying here. You know, we all have stories, and I know I have mine, and I'm going to stick to it. And I love to learn a lot from transfer students. And I think by working with transfer students, it has constantly motivated me to move myself professionally and academically. So like currently now I'm looking at doing a doctorate degree, and it's because of working with great transfer students and listening to their stories and being able to connect and giving them opportunities, or whether it's at Thomas Edison or whether it's at my colleague's institution, but just, you know, that camaraderie is there with the transfer students. So thank you so much. I'm going to pass it over to my man, Vincent.
Thanks, Paul. Appreciate it. Hi, everyone. My name is Vincent Tepedino. I'm coming to you as the Director of Transfer Admissions from Rutgers University in our great city of Newark, obviously here in New Jersey. Actually, that's false advertising. I'm located in New York right now, but the university obviously being in New Jersey, but, you know, one and the same, right? In Staten Island. Is that really New York? Who can tell anymore? I really have to echo everything everyone just said. I mean, I've been working with transfer students specifically for 7 of my 9 years in higher education across 2 different states and 3 different universities. And I love the population because no 2 story is the same. I love the population, and I love hearing about the stories that the students have. They'll come to me and they'll say, Vincent, before we get into it, let me tell you about my story. And that's when I'm all ears, because that's what I want to hear about. Because I feel like it's not just helping the student, it's about helping the person as well, is when you're talking with transfer students. And that's what I love. I love that interaction with transfer students. I love the focus that you all have. You know what you want for the most part. I'm here to help you get to that end goal. And that end goal is obviously the degree and beyond. So I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me and for being with us. And I think we'll try, Heather, I think we'll try Rachel maybe?
Yeah, let's try Rachel. How's the sound going, Rachel?
Can you hear me okay?
We
Yes.
can, yay!
Okay. My name is Rachel Beach, and I am a transfer admissions counselor at the University of South Carolina, Beaufort. So we are part of the University of South Carolina system, but we are a separately accredited institution. We're kind of under the USC umbrella, but we're a separate four-year bachelor's degree and now graduate degree granting institution. And I actually, most of my experience for the 14 years I've been in higher ed was in advising, but I just started working with transfer students as an admissions counselor in January. So it's a little bit new to me. And I'm excited for this opportunity. Probably my favorite part of it is I get to work with a lot of military. We're located, my office in Beaufort is about 15 minutes from Parris Island Marine Corps Recruit Depot. So we have a lot of military, Marines and Marine spouses that come through who have transferred all over the place due to different stations and deployments. And it's always interesting trying to work with them to piece together the credits from different schools to try to help them, meet their educational goals and career goals and, get that bachelor's degree out of the way so that they can graduate and go on with work. So for me, it's just kind of it's interesting. It's fun to put the pieces together and try to help them figure out what the best goal is for them, what the most realistic goal is in terms of time and cost and time to completion, basically.
I love that. Thank you, everybody, for sharing your motivation and what you love about this. And Carla, welcome. We are diving into introductions. We're doing just name, role, and one or two sentences about what you love about transfer students or working in transfer. Are you ready to share that with us?
Hello, yes, I am, and I'm sorry, I'm actually en route, but I am listening. But yes, I'm motivated by transfer students because I've worked with older students for a while, almost 12, 13 years, and I'm motivated by just their eagerness, different motivations to want to come back to school and finish. I find that a lot of them are returning students. They've been through different colleges or sometimes other universities, and it's so inspiring to see them handling different tasks and just pushing forward for their motivation. So I'm excited to work with them for sure.
Wonderful. And I see Kathy is here. Kathy, do you want to introduce yourself to the world and us?
Hi, everybody. My name is Kathy Coronado. I'm actually under Carla at the University of Houston in Victoria. So thank you for letting us be part of this. So I am a transfer recruiter in the Victoria area. One thing I really love about the transfer recruitment is being a transfer student myself, the experiences that I had to go through, and then being able to know that I'm here to assist any student that has any issues along the way, but also knowing like building that relationship is most important to me with them. Transferring from maybe a community college, coming into a four-year university really has a big impact on students because I want them to know, it's not, they're just as important as any freshman, especially transferring over into another university, a new environment or anything like that. So that's something that I'm really, really feel strongly about. So thank you again for having me part of this.
Wonderful. Welcome, everyone. I want Chris to just introduce himself since he's the event manager and helped wrangle all of us and get all of us here today. Then I'm going to frame the session a little bit and we'll just dive into questions. So keep your questions coming as we chat.
Yeah, so my name is Christopher Bedoyan. I'm currently working towards my master's in higher education through St. Cloud State University in Minnesota. I'm a transfer student. I attended Citrus College in California for about 4 years and then went to Cal Poly Pomona, where I got my bachelor's in ethnic studies. So really passionate about the transfer community, spent some time working it as a student worker and now giving that back and continue with Transfer Nation.
Wonderful. So just remember, as we're talking about today, this is sort of a national conversation, right? This is a big, broad conversation about transfer, what it is, why it's an incredible pathway of success. Every one of us is coming from a different state or a different institution. So, as we talk about this information, we're talking about it generally. And but know that it's coming from a place of true transfer advocacy and transfer love. Many of us are transfer students or have worked with transfer students a long time and really get the pathway, get how challenging it can be to navigate, but also get how incredibly rich and life-changing it can be. So just keep that in mind when you're listening to everybody today. These answers and these tips and insights that folks are giving, some of them might be individual to the institution, some of them might be more general. So just make sure that whatever transfer path you are on, you're double checking with your institutions that you are engaged with, whether that be at community college right now or a four-year university right now. Check in with your advising offices, because we aren't going to be giving really, really specific information, more just broad information. On that note, I want to start with a broad question, because here's the thing. We all talk about transfer all day long. And so we have this, lingo and this kind of firsthand knowledge of what that word means and what transfer means. And I use it in so many different ways. So I'm interested to know from you all, what is transfer? Let's cover the basics here, just for the folks that are trying to navigate it and understand what it means. Does anybody have a good definition of transfer or what transfer means to them?
I'm happy to jump in. So transfer at Drake University means to be a transfer student, anyone who has taken college credit post high school graduation date. So if you graduated in May of 2020 and have taken classes since, you are a transfer student. And also with the word transfer, if you're a high school student coming direct from high school and have transfer credit, obviously that can transfer in. It's just a matter of how you apply and what scholarships you're eligible for. Are you a direct from high school new student, or are you a transfer student? So that's the variation at Drake, is post high school graduation date, attended and taken any college credits.
I'll also just jump in and add off of that too, because there's sorry, Rachel, I saw you come in. I get a handful of phone calls each and every year about students who are asking, am I considered a transfer, and kind of vaguely hint around like high school. There's nothing wrong with getting your GED. That's the same thing. Well, you're still a transfer student. So we're all under the assumption, if it's a high school transcript and diploma or a GED, that's fine. Don't be ashamed of those things. It just took you a little longer to get to that point. That's totally fine. And we're here to help you, but we're not putting any, stigma or any feeling of, wow, they got their GED. There's none of that with us. So be honest with us, because the more you're honest with us in the beginning, the easier it is to help. So whether it is a high school or GED, any post-college credit or any college credit post-high school or GED would be considered a transfer at TC&J with 12 or more credits earned. So just also wanted to put that point in there too.
I'd like to add something to that, to my colleagues. To Rochelle's points, yes, you have to have a certain amount of credits post high school that you have earned. You're classified textbook, you're a transfer student. When I look at like my journey, I think it was like kind of like the land of opportunity for me, right? This was like post-recession, and I was like, where am I gonna go, right? So there was a community college. And that's where I got to find out that I was not like your first year or anything like that. I was a transfer student. Being a transfer student, to me, it allowed me to explore different options, different opportunities, versus being on a certain track. I think that's where, as we talk about stories of transfer students, that's the way I kind of define a transfer student. There's a textbook, and then that's how we look at them as in policies within each institution. But then if we really were to dive deeper, I say these are students that are coming with certain credentials that are looking for opportunities at their respective institutions. So I just wanted to add that to my colleagues.
I love that. Wonderful definitions of transfer. And we will keep adding to that that pool of information of what this word and what this experience and what this journey means. And I just want to reiterate, it's a not, there are nonlinear paths. I was on the 20-year plan. It took me 20 years to get through community college and four-year university. That's, it's the path that worked for me. And you're going to find the path that works for you, the educational path. Sometimes you pursue other life goals. Sometimes you work for a bit. Sometimes things happen in life and you navigate that. That's what I love about the word transfer, is it encompasses so much. It's all about transition, and life is about transition. And so to me, transfer just, it's personal, obviously, because of my own path, but I really love how you all framed it. So thank you. And I realized we didn't actually get to Victoria, who's also here. Victoria, are you with us? Do you want to just introduce yourself real quick, and maybe one sentence about how you love working with transfers? If you're with us, no pressure. All right, maybe Victoria will come and join us in a minute. Now I want to get to common myths about transfer and kind of demystifying transfer for folks. What are some of the common myths you hear from students? And let's like bust those up. Tell me what you hear. Vincent, I know you love this one.
Everyone knew I was going to start because I hear one. We've conducted these focus groups over the past few years at Rutgers Newark, and a common theme that continued to come up was this word behind. I'm behind because I'm a transfer. Am I behind because I'm a transfer? Faculty have told me I'm behind because I'm a transfer. And it could not be further from the truth, right? Just because you're coming from a different community college or even four-year institution, right? Those transfers that are 4-year to 4-year as well, that maybe might not be as common, or definitely something that is popping up now, especially in a COVID, post-COVID world, whatever we're in right now. You're not behind because you were somewhere else, not behind because you were not sitting in the same seat as someone else as a freshman. You started as a junior, right? You're not behind because you didn't understand, where to find your internship at Rutgers Newark or at TCNJ or at the University of South Carolina until you had 65 plus credits. You're coming in, especially if you're coming from an in-state, let's say, school that has a transfer agreement, you're doing the same thing someone else is, maybe for a third of the cost, and you're getting those same credits. It's a different experience, right? As most have mentioned that went through transfer, you went there for whatever reason, whether it be financial, or you maybe just weren't ready for a 4-year institution, or hey, you did not know what you wanted to study. This is what the community college landscape does. It is a platform to the 4-year institutions. And, students believe, and they tell me that they're behind because they're coming from a community college or they're transferring from somewhere else. There is no, as Heather mentioned, linear path. There is no right way anymore. You are no longer the exception, right? Our institutions don't look at you as a filler, right? Those things are now a thing of the past. If anything, in most places, you are a major part of the strategic plan on our universities, and we're focusing our time and resources on you because you are important and you are doing something that really is kind of changing the way we look at higher education altogether. So I just wanted to make sure that, you understand that you are not behind by transferring. You are on a path that will lead you to success, definitely.
Other common myths you hear that you want to bust right here, right now, forever. Let's speak the truth about transfer. What else do you hear? Yeah, Rachel.
One of the ones that I have surprisingly run into a lot with students is about credits that transfer from one school to another. And there have been some misconceptions about whether or not classes will carry over. And I think the big thing that I try to point out to students is just because a credit transfers does not mean that it counts towards your degree requirements. And so I've had faculty maybe that will say, oh yeah, all of those credits will transfer, and they do, but they're not all required for our degree. And so, there are some other courses that kind of have to be taken in the mix. And so I've seen some frustration there with students who say, well, they told me all of my classes would transfer. And I say, and they did all transfer. However, let me clarify that statement a little bit about what that still means for you in terms of degree completion. So I think that's something important to ask when you're looking at universities or colleges, will the credits transfer, and also how will they apply to my degree?
I love that. Getting super, super clear about what your pathway is, what you're taking. Is it going to, so you're not wasting time, money, credits, or you're taking it for an exploratory reason, right? You may still want to take that course, but maybe it's really important to know what it aligns with in terms of where you're going, what your major is, and what your concentration is. I love that. Yeah, Brian.
I think there's sometimes, and within New Jersey, there's the Lampet Law, which, helps students, if you have your associate's degree, transfer in a certain amount of credits. A lot of the conversations that I have as well, students who do end up going to the community college are saying, oh, I have to get my associate's degree before I could transfer. While there is the benefit of getting your associate's degree, it's not a necessary component. And in New Jersey, like I said, my school is different from everybody up here, but transferring at TCJ is 12 credits. That's one semester. So if you really want to transfer after one semester, you certainly can. And I think I speak for everybody when I say we'll help you with the decision and helping you get to that point of when you're ready to transfer. But we can only get you so far. If you're ready to transfer already, you're going to try and transfer or apply to transfer. You don't need our approval. Any of us will gladly accept your application and help you work through that process, but you do not need your associates to transfer. So you could complete the associates and you'll have different advantages and benefits to having that degree, or rights and privileges, right, is what they all say when you have the rights and privileges. So those carry weight within that, but you don't have to earn your associates to transfer out. You could transfer when you're ready.
I'd like to add a myth about, you hear like transfer student is less than, or a transfer student is not as important, or a transfer student is a failure, which I will totally debunk and knock out of here, because transfer students, life happens, you change your mind. You might think you want one thing, but now you want something different. Or you went to a community college because you weren't sure what you wanted to study, or you went to a community college because you wanted to save money, or you're at a four-year school and now you want to study something that school doesn't have. They don't offer that major, so you need to go somewhere else. So I call transfer students brave, because you're brave to make a change and go to the next step and explore and find the next right place for you. So that's a huge one, that transfer students are not less than or a failure by any means. They are transfer champions.
I love that. Oh my goodness. And I want to back up both. I want to make a note on Brian's point and back up Rochelle's point with some data. So I do a lot of research and advocacy for transfer. And I love what Brian said. And I want folks to go on the path that is going to work for them in their life. I will say there is a lot of evidence and research that if you get an associate's degree first and you commit to that, that actually really helps success outcomes for your bachelor's degree and master's and PhD, if that's your path. Now, again, I am the hugest cheerleader for finding what works for you. So, you may just want to take the units you need to take at community college and get on to the 4-year and not worry about the associates. And if that works for you, great. But there's a lot of evidence that actually going through that process and taking those assigned pathways, one, will help you not lose as much credit and money along the line, because it's actually been carved out and agreed upon between the two schools that it's a pathway generally if you get your associates and then transfer on. And there's some evidence that if you do that path, you're much more likely to move on and graduate with your bachelor's degree no matter what. But to Rochelle's point, there's lots of evidence that transfer students often even do better at the 4-year university than students who go directly from high school to a 4-year university. So whatever path you choose, just know it is, and I loved how Vincent articulated or framed it, of this, transfer is a pathway of success and to success, just as other higher education pathways can be. Now we do actually, I love this myth busting. And thank you for bringing that important point up, Rochelle. And I wanted to get to the faculty and the challenge, because I know there's some challenges about the difference between community college and four-year. So I want to get there. But I do think that we actually have one extra guest here. Is it Ludmi? Do you want to introduce yourself if you can hear us now?
Hi there. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry. We have virtual Zoom lobby with the same account. And
no problem.
Hi, hello everyone. My name is Ludmi Herath. I'm from the University of Houston, Victoria. I predominantly work with international transfer students. And I found this to be pretty amazing because with the pandemic, with not being able for our students, brand new students to come into the country, we've seen an increase in international students actually transferring to our institution. What was interesting for me was, and I have a few of my colleagues here as well, what was interesting for us was, even though, we have two major pretty big, large community colleges with international students being, Houston Community College and Lone Star, we attract more from out of state actually for our university. Pretty much, we do have about 40%, which is from the local community colleges, but about 60% is from out of state. So with that, we do see international students transferring, but on the other side, we do see international students afraid of applying for community colleges because there's still a stigma on the visa issuance. And I do travel a lot. I work with a lot of embassies. And this is one of the questions that I always direct at them, at the embassy consular people, asking, do you purposely prevent community college students to come into the country? They do say no, they do understand community colleges, but then the students say something else. For example, certain countries, like we've seen predominantly African country students and South Asian students, very difficult to secure visa to coming to a community college. And that is through numbers and, of years of experience. So that's my little, a bit about transfer students, and I love to hear more. And I'm here to actually since we cannot get more students from out of the country, I want to be more resourceful for students, providing them information to get them to four-year campuses. Nice to meet you, everyone.
Nice to meet you. Thank you so much for being here. It's such an important issue. We were actually thinking of maybe doing a session live like this on international transfer students for all of the reasons that you bring up. So I'm really glad you're here today. It's great to have you part of the conversation.
Thank you.
Yeah, so we were talking about demystifying the transfer process. I want to get to some tips and some questions that we have in the chat chat about challenges and about when to talk to admissions advisors, etc. But any other types of myths that you wanted to, like, right here and right now end? Because I know there are others, and one I hear a lot is about the challenge of a community college versus a four-year, or a faculty from community college versus a four-year. And for those of us who went through the transfer process, we know how challenging community college is, and how it compares. Do you have anything to say about that, that kind of common myth?
I'll say something, Heather. At my previous institution, when I was recruiting in-state, out-of-state, one of the major concerns for the community college students was, well, I am taken very seriously at community college, but I won't be taken seriously at the four-year because it's a mid-sized to a large-sized institution. Here, I'm very friendly with my faculty and the advisors. Are they gonna respect me the way the community college is? And I always tell them, like, look for that one advisor, that one staff member that can be your gateway to the other offices, because they have certain relationships with other members on campus. So that's where you start networking. So just like you network at the community college, your network is now going to expand a little bit. So you're going to have more resources at your disposal. So don't let that going from a small institution to a mid-sized to a large deter you from transferring, upward. But go over there, ask the right questions. So that's where we come in. We tell them, like, hey, you want to ask X, Y, and Z, and start and especially for an institution that has like a transfer hub, that's the first place you should be going to. That is the spot that is gonna demyth everything for you. That's gonna be the welcoming station for you. That's gonna give you your tours, your orientation, and that is gonna give you all the resources. So, you know, trying to tell that to a lot of transfer students who are at an average are staying at the community college for at least 2 or 3 years and they get comfortable there. And that's where they're very fearful of like, oh my God, I'm going to an institution that has 40,000 students versus 10,000, right? So, you know, just prepping them with those right questions to ask once they get to the 4 year.
Anyone else want to chime in on that one? I'll just say from my perspective, I had some of the most incredible faculty members at community college, and they've become lifelong friends really and mentors. So just, you know, and then and I'm jumping ahead a little bit because I used to work at a four-year university as a transfer center director. So I work with transfers once they're already at the 4 year, but to not be intimidated by faculty and to go and introduce yourself and let them know you're a transfer and tell them your story. Because most of the time, every single thing I hear from faculty is how much they love having transfer students in their classroom, because you bring the rich life experience, you bring a different perspective, you've been in college before, you've navigated systems before, and you really have a point of view that they want to hear. But sometimes you get, I've gotten intimidated about sharing that. And when I have shared it, it just, you know, the faculty really champion that and really appreciate that perspective in their classroom at the 4 year. So know that that's also part of it, just from my personal transfer experience and years working at UCLA. Kathy, you have your hand raised.
I think a common challenge that I would share as a transfer myself, and some that I see now, is just some transfer students getting the runaround a lot, from department to department to department, and not knowing, you know, who exactly they're supposed to speak with. Kind of pigging off of Paul there, to find that right person is very, very important. That will help you throughout this process. So that's where I feel like we come in, because we're that frontline people that make it happen. And, you know, just to guide them throughout the entire process as far as admissions or who to connect them to. So I feel like that's one of the biggest challenges that I've seen as far as being part of a university too, but for more along the line of working with the community college students that are planning to come over to us.
Perfect segue, Kathy, to really getting to some tangible tips and takeaways for those considering transfer or navigating the pathway currently. So, you know, we've talked a little bit about some of the challenges. You can start to see them coming out in our conversation about debunking the myths. But what are some tips that you all have? I saw somebody asked a question like, when should I start talking to somebody like you all, a recruiter or an admissions counselor? So yeah, Vincent, start us off. What tips and takeaways do you have?
Perfect. Thank you, Heather. So, and a great question. So, what I found, and I think, you know, most of my colleagues here can attest to, let me go ahead and lower my hand so I'm not obnoxious the entire time I speak, is, you know, we talk to many students, right? And a lot of them, the first time you're talking to them is in their last semester at community college, right? And by that time, we can advise on process, but it's hard to advise on identifying the proper academic pathway to maximize your transfer credits, right? So doing your research on colleges really at the early onset of wherever it is that you are. I mean, obviously a 4 year, you might not be thinking about transfer automatically, but as a community college student, for those of you who are at any community college, you know, you're probably thinking, well, I'm here, what's the next step already? Don't wait until I almost said senior year, your last semester, right? Hopefully your second year, to start asking questions from people like Paul or Brian or Rachel. Start having those conversations, making those connections early on so that we can tell you, no, don't take that course if you want that major. This is probably more the one that will help you in the long run, or identifying an actual pathway for you that will show you a clear-cut path, not only to graduation at the community college, but to graduation at the 4 year institution and beyond. And doing that so as early as possible will only benefit you more in the long run.
Rochelle and then Paul.
Okay, so what I would like to answer that about when to contact, if you're thinking about contacting them, contact them. It's never too early. If you are a high school student doing dual enrollment credit, if you are just starting in community college, if you're at a 4-year, wherever you are, if you're thinking about transferring, contact the school and schools, that you're looking at. The other thing you also asked about tips. Here's my biggest tip that I can give to any transfer is do not check schools off your list based on cost or location without going through the process. So if a school has your major, then you need to make sure you apply to at least 2 schools, get admission, scholarship, transfer credit evaluation, degree planning, time to degree, financial aid package, so that you can know how much is it going to cost, how long is it going to take, is it in a city, state that I want, and what are the academic opportunities, social opportunities that can help build my resume to get me to the place I want to be afterwards, and what are their accomplishment rates. What is the percentage of students that have a job or undergraduate school upon 6 months or less of graduation? Drake's typically is 98 to 99%. In a pandemic, we were 95.5%. So make sure that you're going places that will get you to where you want to be and transform your life and make those dreams come true. The school that you may end up with and is the best match for you may be one that you think you can't afford, or it may be one that's in a different city or state than you thought. But explore those options, and it's never too early to contact us. Thank you.
One of the tips that I can share, adding to the admissions process, and you're figuring out your degree pathway. I always like to tell students, if we're on this journey, we want to make sure that we can get a ROI on this journey and whatever resources we're going to be spending. I always tell students, think about a career, think about a role model that you're looking to be or who you want to aspire to be. Look at their profile, see what kind of degrees they did, so you can figure out working backwards to see what you have to do at the institution that you desire to go to. So you're not going to be one of those students that's working blindfoldly and be like, oh yeah, I got this bachelor's degree, where am I going to work now? So being prepared, there's a saying, poor preparation calls for poor performance. So we want to start early with the admissions process, and also start having those career conversations with your peers, join a club, go to the career office, but have an idea of what do you want to be after the 2 years at the community college, 2 years at the 4-year. At least then this way you're motivated. The more motivated you are, the better you will perform in school. You'll get high honors, you'll join some amazing groups, and that's going to look good on your resume because you are driven. So it's the best advice that I can give you.
I love that advice, Paul. What does ROI stand for, in case someone doesn't know that acronym?
My favorite acronym, return on your investment.
I love it. Thank you. Brian, I think you had something you wanted to mention in this tips vein.
So just a quick fun tip, and we live in such an instantaneous world where you could go on Instagram, you could like something, you buy something off Amazon, it'd be at your house that night, in most places, I guess, right? But depending on what situation you're in, everything seems to be so instant. College, and some colleges are instant and have instant decision days and go to your school and tell you, yeah, you've been admitted and or not, and work on this. Not all schools do offer that. So being able to be ahead of that instantaneous curve, and how do you help yourself in that? Well, if you're already at a community college and taking courses, you already graduated high school, or you have your GED, or whatever you have, start sending that information over. You're not going back to high school and taking more classes. You're done. You're graduated. It's over. You could send those transcripts to us, or maybe reach out to the school that you're looking at, and maybe you can or can't. At TCNJ, you could send it to us. We'll hold it in a digital file until your application comes in. But everything will start to come in when you're ready to apply. And once you hit the submit button on the application, we'll start putting those pieces together, either electronically or physically. But you could start that process of getting the materials that you need to apply to schools, so that when you're ready, you're not waiting to the deadline. And then 2 weeks later, when we're not getting your materials, and you're going, well, why didn't you get my materials? I submitted the day of the deadline. Well, everything takes a little bit of time. So having preparation, like Paul said, on your end, will not have an emergency on everybody else's end. So just be prepared with that.
I love that. Any other key takeaways, like strong tips for folks navigating the transfer system or maybe even just considering it right now. And I'd also love to get to some tips for working students, for students returning to school after taking time off. Any insights you have working with students who, maybe haven't been in school for a while and might be a little like, how do I do this process now?
I know I've had come across some students that hadn't been in school for a while. Some are parents, most of them have been parents, and they get very intimidated. Biggest tip I can give you is don't be intimidated, because some of these students are fresh out of high school that are, coming into college or the four-year university setting that I'm in. So I know that's usually a lot of, the concerns that a lot of, returning adults have. And then because of their age, it doesn't matter. I don't think it matters. It doesn't matter, because you have a goal and that's what you're trying to reach. So I don't care what age you are, as long as you complete the goal that you are trying to accomplish, it doesn't matter. So I say go for it. Don't be intimidated by others, because you're not the only one out there that is feeling that way. You're not the only one. There's not just one of you in that little, bubble feeling like, oh my God, this is so intimidating. They're going to make fun of me. No. There's professors, as long as you have good communication as well with your professors going in as well too, there's just that open relationship with them. That's going to be the biggest asset that you can have, I believe it, at least in, in the community college level as well. So I think it works both ways. So just, that's my biggest, at least tip that I can give, those coming back into school and getting very intimidated by it.
I am applauding you right now, Kathy. I love that. Thank you for reaffirming that sentiment. And I think, I actually kind of see it as an advantage being a non-traditional student. I kind of like that phrase for myself. I liked it because I had life experience I could bring to it. So sometimes, and I'm not the admission counselor here, so I'll let everybody else speak to this, but my personal perspective and what I've observed is that telling your story makes a huge difference. Not maybe, grades are important, of course, right? Like academics is important. It's higher education. It's about academics. However, your life experience, what you bring to the table, your point of view, what you're going to bring to the university. These are really important aspects of an application. Am I right? I see some nods. Okay, I see lots of nods. Okay, yeah.
Think about it, Heather. Even now, this might ruin Brian's hope of seeing this 5 years from now, but seeing it through a pandemic, what's better than a story of a student who tried to transition to a different school without physically being able to visit that school? What do we always say, right? Don't choose a school without seeing it. You need to know if you feel comfortable there. The 1,200 plus transfer students we brought in at Rutgers Newark didn't have that opportunity and still were here and transitioned completely virtual, don't know what I look like three-dimensionally, never met me in person, took me on faith that this was the right option for them. And we had to deliver on those promises. So that's a story everyone should be able to tell.
Absolutely. Paul, I saw your hand up, but Rachel, any tips or insights that you would suggest to folks considering this pathway or thinking about it?
I think just kind of reiterating what others said about researching and making sure the institution is a good fit for you. I have a lot of students that we're based outside of Hilton Head Island, which is a very large vacation area. And so a lot of students end up saying, oh, I'll go to college by the beach. And they just apply and kind of, decide, well, I'm going to transfer down there and this is going to be where I want to be. And they look at us more for our location than for how good of a fit we are. And we've actually had some students apply and then realize that we don't offer quite the major that they want, or it's not really going to help them get to the goal. So I'm saying, do your research, not just on, is the institution a good fit for you in terms of weather and location and things like what clubs are available or, that sort of thing. It might be convenient for you in terms of location if you moved here for work or, family, But, if we don't offer a program that's going to get you to where you want to go, then, ultimately you will probably leave frustrated. And, we don't want that. And we'll certainly do our best to help you find something that, if we can, as an alternative program or degree to help you reach that goal, but that's not always the case. So, make sure that we have the programs that you're looking for and that you've, put some effort into kind of digging through what's available, or calling and asking, or like you said, coming by and visiting to see kind of if it's a good fit.
I love that you reiterated that point because, and I know this is such a hard one, right? You want to go to your dream school, or you have this idea in your head about whatever. Often though, having that conversation way ahead of time about what it is you're thinking you want to do, what you want to focus on, and making sure, and visiting that school is like, does it feel right? Do you even like that area? Even though you might think you like the beach, or you might think you like that vibe, but have you gone there? Have you experienced it? Because you're going to be spending some time there, and you probably don't want to transfer out again. So make sure you're doing your due diligence and your research. I love that. Paul, did you have anything to add?
Just one small tip, which I used it for my grad program. With the amount of information, as Brian was saying, you're on your phone, you're literally digesting all this information. But after a while, we all know that we tend to forget a lot of things, like we forget admissions deadlines, school codes, and things like that. So what I always try to tell students is you're going to pick your 5, 10, 15 schools, create some type of a worksheet where you can stay on top of what you're collecting, right? The deadline dates are important for scholarships, especially for transfer students. Which transcripts you still need to request. Like, if you guys ever need help with that, please contact me, because I have already created a template. But I think that it creates a summary, a snapshot of where you're at in your college journey. So again, that is your responsibility. We're giving you the information, but we want you to actually utilize it and save it. And when the time comes, you can come back, be like, hey, Paul, Brian, Rochelle, Rachel, I'm looking to come to your institution because I kept your information. I know what the deadline dates are, so that this way we know how to properly and efficiently help you and make your visit worthwhile while you're going to come and visit us.
But also, just jumping off that point, use an email account that you check frequently, or set a new one up. You could easily go to Google or Yahoo, or I won't date myself and say AOL.com, but you could use any of these places and set up a new email account where all of that information is funneled to, instead of using your community college or your four-year institution. And then you're getting emails from your professors, from your friends, from the job on campus that you have, and then all of us on top of it, sending you all the emails and everything on top of that. So use a way to separate that too, but then pull it into a template that Paul has, and you could probably email him for that.
I also wanted to add to, just make sure your information is accurate when applying, because we've had issues. I send multiple different ways of communication. We email, we call, we text. And a lot of issues I had is that students think that we're automated messages. So no, there's actually another person on the other side of the phone texting you. So that's just something that, I've encountered quite a bit, is just that, accurate numbers. Sometimes they mistype the number. So just keep that in mind, as well as just keep your information up to date. So that way we can contact you back once you actually apply, because then you don't hear from us and then we don't hear from you. So it's been a struggle, but just a tip.
Another tip going off of all of those would be follow up on your application. So typically I can pretty much say every institution is going to require transcripts. So if you submit the application, be sure to then also send your transcripts and any other requirement for that particular institution to complete your application, so it can be reviewed, so you can get to the next step of what's my scholarship, what's my transfer credit, what's my time to degree, what's my financial aid package, because you can't get those answers if you don't apply and you don't complete your application. So very big tip. So as soon as you hit your application, just go request your transcripts too, so it's all seamlessly and moves quickly.
So smart. So smart. So I know that some of us still have some meetings today, and we're going to get to need to get off to those. But we have loved having this time with you. So if you're interested in learning more, please DM us. Please put in the chat that you're what questions you have and what topics you'd like us to focus on for future events. So because we really would love to keep this conversation going with you, and we want to know what it is that you want to know and how we can be helpful in that. But before we go, I want to do a last round. Feel free to, chime in with anything we haven't covered, because obviously there's so much that we could cover and we probably haven't addressed it all today. But I want to end on on a fun tradition at your institutions that transfers have to look forward to when they transition to your institution, or maybe a notable transfer alumni from your institution, or alumni, but extra brownie points for transfer alumni, because there are so many notable transfer alumni who've gone through this transition and this process. So we can popcorn around, but feel free to also offer any last thoughts or takeaways that we haven't covered today, because there's a lot of ground that we still need to cover.
I don't mind starting if that's all right with everyone. Give everyone another opportunity to conjure up in your mind what you're going to say, right? I'll be that person for us. So I think what I think is really great about a lot of institutions and what they're doing and trying to understand the transfer student experience is having more transfer students connect with prospective students, right? It's a lot more peer-to-peer. So just thinking about maybe not traditions, Heather, but maybe new things that are coming up that transfer students can get involved in is, if you've gone through the process, your knowledge firsthand might be worth more to a student than anything any of us can say, because let's face it, we all get to be cookie cutters after a while, right? Say there's different versions of the same thing, but not if it's a personal story. So see if those schools have the ability, the opportunity to be what we would call transfer student mentors here at Rutgers Newark that can come work for me directly. And we can work on bringing in the next class of transfer students. And to end on another thing, just, don't think that because you're a transfer, that means that you can't. I see so many students who look at me and they come up to me almost sheepishly, like, well, I'm a transfer, and they're moving their feet around. I can't do study abroad, or I can't do an internship right now. It's my first semester. Not true. Those opportunities are there for you. When you're done, it's not Rutgers University graduate with a little asterisk because you transferred. You are a Rutgers student. You are a Drake student, whether you're there for 30 credits or 130 credits, you are a graduate of that university. So thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Transfer pride. I love that. Thank you, Vincent. You just thrilled my soul with that sentiment. Who else? What do transfers have to look forward to as they transfer to your institution or transfer in general? I love that example.
Okay, I'll jump in. So our transfer students can look forward to having a transfer peer mentor, a current Drake student, as a resource, in addition to our transfer student advisor, who helps you with all that transfer credit, degree planning, registration, all of those things. So that is your person and your advisor. On a note specific, you asked about a tradition at the institution. Being at Drake University, I have to talk about Drake Relays, which is a high school, college, and Olympian track and field event that happens every year in late April. With that is street painting, which turns into also a paint fight. So we give you, as an admitted student, your street painting shirt so that you can have that for that paint fight, in addition to Hubbling. And Hubbling is the name of our dining facility, Hubble. And they used to have trays that you used to get your food on, which we don't anymore because of environmental concerns. But the trays still exist. And now they use those trays in the winter. We're in Iowa for 4 seasons when it snows. And they'll use the tray and go down the hills for sledding, but it's called Hubbling. So that's one of our fun traditions. And real quickly at the end, some fun alums that I am not sure if they're transfer alums or not. I couldn't get that institutional data research today quickly. But Michael Emerson, he's an actor. He was on Lost. He is from Drake University. Zach Johnson, pro golfer, Masters champion, and also Robert Ray has been our governor in Iowa. So with that, I will say thank you very much, and don't hesitate to contact any institution. We are here to help you. We love transfer students, and you are worth it. Thank you.
If it's okay, I can go next. So Thomas Edison is a, traditionally an online institution. We are one of the pioneers. We've been doing distant learning since 1972 for, working adults. And I think traditionally what we're really known for, we primarily work with transfer students. But I think what I really pride in about Thomas Edison is you can earn credit for what you already know. So let's just say we transfer up to 90 credits and you have taken cooking classes, cutlery classes, you have been an auto mechanic, you can get college credits for this stuff and then be able to earn your bachelor's probably less than 6 months at Thomas Edison. So there's faster ways to earn your degree here. This is what we're really known for, but we are now branching into different markets ever since I came onto this role. So, looking forward to connecting with you guys at some point, but I want to thank you all for joining us. We're very, very grateful. I hope we have more of these, and I think we need more of these sessions to kind of expand this conversation. So thank you.
I'll go in next. So real quick, just one last final tip. At the end of all of our titles, we're counselors. We are here to help counsel you, whether it's our school or any other school. Whether obviously we would love to have you at our school, but we will help you find and figure out what you need to know about how to go with your journey to get your academic dreams completed. So we are all counselors by nature. We love answering questions. That's why we did this panel, and everyone jumped on real quick to say that they're helpful in doing this. So we love these type sessions and panels and questions. So don't hesitate to reach out with questions. So real quick, as a transfer coming into TCNJ, you get to work with me up until you enroll here. So what's better than that? I don't think there's not much better, but hubbling sounds awesome. I would love to try that. But yeah, so you get to work with me up until you actually matriculate here at TCNJ. One tradition that you get to look forward to when you get to graduation, you can jump in our fountain. Disclaimer, I didn't say that out loud in a recorded session, so that's up to you if you want to pursue that, but up to you. Many students and graduates do that as well before they head on out of here before graduation commences. And then finally, some famous alum, whether they're transfer or not, I don't believe so, but I'm not 100% sure. So most recently, the most current alum that have been, I guess, the most storied here at TCNJ in the last couple of weeks are the Lucas brothers. So Lucas brothers are actors. They were just nominated for an Oscar for Judas and the Black Messiah. They were co-writers on that. They are both TCNJ alum. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, if you've seen 22 Jump Street, the two twins that are across the hall from Channing Tatum and them, those are the Lucas brothers. So they're great stand-up comedians, and they are TCNJ alum. And then we also have a bunch of politicians, and we also have the president of the San Francisco 49ers, which is also pretty cool. So we have a wide variety, and hopefully the next famous alum is you. So we'd love to tell your story. So let me know.
I can jump in real quick. I would say last tip I have is consider applying early. Don't wait till the last minute. I know at our institution we have some transfer scholarships available that are first come, first serve. And the longer you wait, the less likely you are to kind of get in that pot of money. We have a lot of great transfer scholarships and residential scholarships for transfer students. So definitely, look into that and think about applying early. And make sure you have all your ducks in a row before you apply. Don't just submit halfway, but make sure you get your stuff. Be conscientious of the timeline for when you're wanting to start, because there's definitely maybe some scholarships or aid available to you, so that helps a lot of our students. Transfers can look forward to traditions that we have here. We have a homecoming game. We're a very small institution. We have about 2,000 students, but we do have a homecoming soccer game since we don't have, like a football team. And we have every year a faculty, staff versus student kickball tournament, as well as a chili cook-off. So everyone gets to come, and whoever wants to can bring their chili, and everyone can try it and eat their chili while they watch the kickball game. And it's usually pretty interesting to see some of the faculty that get out there with the students and play. So yeah, we have good weather here pretty much year round. So it's a fun one to enjoy, you know, the outdoors there. And thank you guys very much for the opportunity to be here.
I love it. Well, now I have to visit all of these campuses and try all of these fun things at just the right time so I can taste chili and go sledding and jump in a fountain and meet transfer mentors. But thank you all so much for taking really valuable time and energy and enthusiasm out of your day job working with transfers every day to just be here and have this great conversation and be available as an incredible resource. It's so appreciated. I'm excited about everybody's transfer transition and potentially applying to the great schools that you all work for. And we'll make sure all our contact information and our school links, institution links are in the comments and chat if you're watching this not in real time. And just to end it, there are so many well-known transfers. I don't even know where to start. I mean, I have a list of like 700. I don't know if they're from your institutions, but there are so many incredible folks who have gone on the transfer pathway. Huge names like Tom Hanks and Aaron Rodgers and Steven Spielberg and Obama, and writers like Terry McMillan and Amy Tan and Beverly Cleary. Incredibly wonderful doctors and first ladies like Jill Biden, who actually transferred and is a transfer community college professor at a community college and encourages transfer. So many folks in so many different fields, really everything under the sun, names you'd recognize, names that are doing things behind the scenes. I was reading about somebody the other day who found some great aspect to the COVID vaccine, who was a transfer student and was talking proudly about it. So this is a pathway of success. This is an incredible higher education journey and pathway, and it's yours to carve and navigate for yourself. So thank you for joining us today. We hope you tune in the future, and we're really excited to meet you when you transfer to one of our wonderful institutions. Bye, everyone.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.